So did you hear that Barack
Let's come in.
Obama
Let's come in. Come in.
was dating Jennifer Aniston?
I didn't hear that Barack Obama was dating Jennifer Aniston, but I do think that that's highly retarded.
And he leaves in the morning on a scooter, so like with his visor down so that nobody sees him. And the Secret Service brings them bagels.
Hmm. I bet it talks about that in magazines.
It does. That's not true though.
It isn't true. I didn't think it was, because the
Yes.
media is bought out. And there's no way that those two people are dating. The only reason that they actually mentioned their two names is because everyone loves Jennifer Aniston. Not actually, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Jennifer. They don't love you. They love your character Rachel from Friends that they watched on television for like 7 years.
And let's not forget the movie Horrible Bosses.
Oh,
among
as
many
lots
others.
of movies. But seriously, Jennifer, they love your character.
Yeah.
They don't know you. There's been 0 videos out there where you're being entirely honest. Very few celebrities out there have ever touched on honesty. Like Charlie Sheen, he was one. He's no longer on that show anymore. Uh, But if you look up Charlie Sheen, you'll find lots of his views about 9/11. And it turns out that it's not just sheeple people that are like having thoughts and ideas. It's even celebrities.
That's true. But anyway, I read that little tidbit of information in an article 2 weeks ago in The Economist. That same article also said that George W. Bush divorced his wife and married Beyonce. And basically, the purpose of the article was to compare American politicians to French politicians, where in France that thing actually does go on. But anyway, back
Was this
to...
in The Onion?
No. This was actually in a serious newspaper, but it was like sort of an article like...
So it was a very serious newspaper making fun of foreign relations in context of how our country is.
Making fun of French leaders, because in France that sort of thing actually does happen. Like the presidents date celebrities and like...
Well, in total honesty, though, maybe in a world that was a little less, I don't know. Like we always talk about with the vanity and all those kind of aspects, but don't you also know that one of the main characters from The Big Bang Theory, what was his name? He's married to the supermodel.
Oh, yeah, Raj.
Raj.
Whoever plays Raj.
Whoever plays Raj, the Indian guy, is actually, and I don't mean that racist, I just mean he is the only Indian character, and he's really cool. His character, not talking about the actor, I just mean the show, his character. Yeah, it's cool. But we don't know the character. But what we do know about that character is that he's dating, or married, he's either dating...
he is married.
He is married to Miss India.
Yeah, supermodel.
That's like our equivalent of like Miss America, Miss Canada. Like, the hottest of the entire people.
Basically, yeah, the most attractive woman in India.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like 1 billion people in India.
But he's also on the Big Bang, so he can get any putang he wants.
Yeah, so to speak. But anyway, now to the serious part of Obama. I believe that if the CIA did influence him, which is entirely possible, they did it before he ran for president. Because he's been pretty consistent.
They don't know about that. We were talking about that before.
We were, that's true.
Earlier we were discussing how with MK Ultra, which was an event that occurred through the CIA, where they abducted people, not just from like parks and like local like places like playgrounds and things like that, but also at hospitals. You can read about it on Wikipedia. Not that that's really a valid source, but you can also, if you look up CIA documents, you can find them on Google. And if any of you people out there are actually really serious on reading some of the top secret declassified documents, if you message me personally and give me your email address, I promise you that I will send you those documents, because I have them backed up on multiple sources, by the way. So You wouldn't really be able to get rid of all my sources. They're on more than one thing. I might have some of them on like a little teeny key buried somewhere at a park, okay? You wouldn't be able to get rid of them all. So, if you want a copy of those declassified documents and you've looked up the MK Ultra, there was also a lot of other terminologies.
Let them know your email address,
and I'll send them.
Barack.obama@simpatico.ca or whatever it is.
You know my email address, and it is not
that. Yours, theirs. Your email address. If Barack Obama is watching.
Yeah, well, they don't need to send me their email address, do they? You said that wrongly.
Well, if you're going to send them stuff...
So if you're going to send me something, you're going to send it to my address, which is...
We only live for so long. All one word. At hotmail.com.
Yeah, and one more time, just to reinforce that, is we only live for so long as one word, no spaces, at hotmail.com.
No underscores either.
Yeah. Message me your interest and I will reply with an attached file format. Promise.
And he keeps his promises. So
most of the time.
You will know all. You will be all knowing.
Well, ask me some questions about it. Like what would be an MK Ultra thing that you don't know about, and I'll try to. I did read almost all of the documents. I don't remember entirely, but I did spend like 3-4 days where I went through them all. Some pages are kind of blurry, or 90% of the material on one page is blacked out. But this is the what I found the most fascinating. Even if all that blacked out ink, you ignore all of that and you just read the words that are there on the pages. It's horrible. And
okay. But if I'm going to ask
and
questions...
our government did it to our tax-paying citizens that are ultimately giving these organizations that power.
So this is the United States government that did it. My question is, were Canadian citizens immune from this project?
No, not at all. The Canadian institutions, hospitals were involved, okay? Meaning if you had a sick child, they were 12 years of age, ripe for the picking, and they had, I don't know, let's just make up anything, like their arm. They had a broken arm. Well, for that, because they're at the hospital for a long time, some of these instances, it only took maybe like 10, 14 hours. It doesn't need that much time. That does seem like a lot of time. But in our modern day world, if you're at a hospital and you're like, the people are just like, oh, you come back in 24 hours. They'll be all fixed up and good to go. At a lot of these hospital institutions, especially the ones that occurred in Canada, it was done, what was the word for it? Undercover. People incognito. Even people who worked at the hospitals didn't know. However, they would all have to be fucking retarded to not notice that something different was going on. Because these children were being led to rooms and disappearing for long hours at a time where the shit was undergoing.
Fucking retarded as most of the Québécois are. However, next question. The people, the adults that were given LSD against their will, were they okay after that? Like, does that have any effect on you, like beyond just a trip?
All right. Well, this is one thing that people really have to focus in on. Is that MK's Ultra main objective was to be able to create sleeper agents or to be able to influence people's thoughts, so much so that they did not even know that their thoughts were being influenced. Now, given the circumstance that they did this not only in the United States but in Canada, and the list goes on if you really want to get into MK Ultra.
Australia?
Yes. They actually did.
South Africa?
They've done it globally because the best way to affect human consensus is to try to affect as many people as you can. And they had over 20 years of being in full throttle operation for all of that ... kind of stuff with electroshock and implanting memories. And the most scary thing about it all is that we know that, like, they raped children, they electroshocked children, they gave children LSD, as well as many other mind-altering drugs, which I don't remember all of their names, but mescaline, they did use mescaline, as well as, like, ones that are not even available to the public. They have their own patents on specific molecules, which I don't remember their names, but they are not derived in plants, and many of them are artificial and were derived in a lab, and were only tested on people against their will to see how submissive and implantive they would be on receiving messages that they would further later regurgitate to their will, apparently, but not really, if you think about it, because it might have only taken 13 hours of fucking electroshock and picture flashback in their face for them to finally say the truth. And now, one thing I want to also add in with this MK Ultra is that the child rape and all of that really, like, horrific, disgusting stuff that occurred mainly occurred to the written knowledge of MK Ultra anyway. Not saying that that's truthful, but they didn't want us to know about MK Ultra, and documents were leaked, and it did contain a lot of stuff, and it happened to contain the fact that during the early years, the only reason they were dealing with the rape factor and, like, trauma was because trauma-based mind control they found was one of the most effective. But that was before 10 years of trying out new techniques of electroshock and drugs on unwitting civilians, where they reached the conclusion that there's certain drugs that are actually the most able to take away our free will and make us just give in to the way of society.
Namely LSD.
That was what they began with in the MK Ultra, but near the end of their research, there is other drugs. I really wish that I could remember the name, and I'm sorry that I can't remember. But there are some that they, like, sodium pentothal is like...
That's a truth serum.
That's a truth serum. But, for example, sodium pentothal, unless you order it, you can't actually really make it unless you, like...
Unless you find
have
some
a lab.
sodium atoms.
You'd have to have a lab, and you'd have to have scientific background and knowledge of how to use them.
Chains.
Which some people could do, but most of that occurs in facilities and places that are unknown. And they're also administered to people at unknown locations.
Well, thank you.
Let's cut this now.
For the information. Thank you for the information. And we're all smarter as a result.
I would hope so. And any of the information that I've spoken of, I beg that you look it up. Not to devaluate me, but to add credence. To give me some value. Like, don't just say, like, oh, you're wrong, and with no validity. Because if you looked up any of the things that I have said, you would reach the same conclusion that I have. And by saying, oh, you're wrong in your description, you're saying, I'm a fucking idiot. From your perspective. Meaning, you're a fucking idiot. So don't do it. First, look up something that I have said before you want to get up in my face about it. Because I'll get in your face about it. Before you even get me. Before, so. I'll do it in advance.
He's already in your face as we speak.
Yeah, so please. Research and learn something previous to your past knowledge, because everyone knows other information about things. So if every time that you enter a circumstance, you're going to assume that your knowledge base is the fucking knowledge base of the planet, then you're going into the situation based as... What did Einstein call it?
The definition of...
What's the word? The one word?
Stupidity.
Stupidity. Stupidity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So, if you watch all these different videos, but you never research or use your brain at all to think about any of the shit when it actually comes to a factual reality, when it comes to government documents and political figures and people that happen to own every fucking thing on the planet, then maybe you actually are ignorant because you didn't do any research.